We did a lot. I don't know what the plan was or whatever. I mean, I just go with the flow, right? So we started inside, then we went to the grass fields, then we went to the stadium, covered a whole bunch of situations. Got the work done. I think we got about 150 plays in or something like that. So everybody got good reps. So it'd be a lot of good tape to watch to see where we're at.
What were your impressions of the offense? I mean, what'd you think of your unit?
I'm still trying to figure them out. I mean, we're in installation phase, and next week is more installation, right? So we'll just keep installing things and keep evaluating players to kind of see what we got. Been very encouraged with the amount of football that we've been playing and what it looks like. I'm seeing some things that I haven't seen since I've been here. So just encouraged with the progress of where we're at. So got obviously a long ways to go. I mean, we're not even done like installing stuff. So, that's what spring is. We'll be a different team in June. We'll be a different team in August. So just a constant evaluation of where we're at and what we do well and what we don't do well. Can't be able to give you those answers right now. I'm not. It's just put the plays in and keep repping them and repping them and repping them and just constantly trying to get better at technique and what our guys do well.
How have the quarterbacks kind of handled the pace of the install and what you guys have
Good.
done to this point?
Yeah, they've probably had the most install meetings. Like I mentioned in one of the other press conferences, being able to spend time with Coach Thomas and myself, back in January, they've probably had more meetings than anybody, So I think they got a good grasp of it. TJ's heard it, Danny's heard it. It's new to Anthony, and he gets mad if I tell him the same play twice. He's like, I got it, and so he's a experienced, bright kid, he's got a good, firm understanding of the game, so very pleased with where he's at from a knowledge standpoint right now. He's fun to watch, it's fun to coach.
Dana, are there guys that he reminds you of that you've coached in the past?
I was talking with Roll out there kind of mid-scrimmage, and I was like, he does some things I've never had. I've never had that mobile of a quarterback. Probably the most mobile one that I had was Skylar Howard. Had him for like 2 years. Just he was a runaround guy, threw a good deep ball. I've never coached like extending plays like I'm coaching right now, just because he has a really unreal, and TJ's an athletic guy too, but he has a good understanding of off-schedule stuff, of keeping the play alive. And I tell you, that's really resonated with the wideouts and the running backs and the tight ends. We weren't very good at extending plays and off-schedule stuff last year, and so receivers got really lazy on, once the play breaks down, they got real lazy on what they were doing. And so that's been a big area of focus. We work scramble drill a lot, but man, I'm encouraging those guys to extend the play and make things happen. That used to really piss me off when guys would extend plays. I'm like, you're never going to do that in a game. I mean, you're just not mobile enough to actually do that. You got to get the ball. I had to coach those guys different. Like, get the ball out, get the ball out, get the ball out. And now I'm like, if First Read ain't there, just run, and we're doing a lot of, not necessarily true quarterback run game. We will, especially when we get into some red zone stuff, but, just the ability to be able to extend the play just on drop back pass and receivers understanding I better get to those spots, and so I'm really coaching that hard and we're working on it. And that's been something that I've had to kind of adjust my thinking on. Shoot, that kid in the bowl game, what was that kid's name? Dampier. Yeah, he was pretty good at it. They did a lot of quarterback run game with him, but his off-schedule stuff was really, really good. That kid comes to mind.
offensive line wise so far? I mean, how's that group kind of gelling with the newcomers, and you brought a lot of guys back too, but how's that picture looking so far?
I think a lot of progress. Been very pleased with where they're at. It starts with Justin. I mean, he's just such an experienced guy. Having new people around him doesn't bother him, and it helps the new people around him. Paul's been out, but he's back, and he went today. I just think that the overall movement with those guys is something that's encouraging. I mean, we had large humans last year, and this year it's going to be kind of a different group. Goes back to kind of what I was saying earlier, just trying to figure out what we have and what we do well, and so I think we're going to be, able to do some more, stuff where it gets those guys out and running. Screen game looks good, and more outside zone stuff where we use their athleticism to be able to get on the perimeter, and pleased with where that group's at.
Does the mobility of that offensive line help when you're trying to coach things that can be more off schedule?
Not necessarily. In the screen game it does, and like nakeds and boots and stuff like that. It does. It's more really the screen game than anything else. The off-schedule stuff. I mean, their job's kind of done. You know what I mean? I mean, the protection looks good. Our just downhill run game stuff isn't quite where it needs to be yet, just based on new people and trying to figure things out. Obviously, the bar was set pretty high for that from last year, with those, especially with the big guards and, Emmett just being Emmett, so still got a lot of work to do there.
How are you rotating the quarterbacks, and what top criteria?
We're moving them around. I mean, Anthony's been going with the primarily the first group. And again, kids played a lot of football, right? So, but just we'll keep rotating all those guys, get them equal reps.
What do you see from Latif and
Competitiveness. Yeah, I mean he's a kid. He likes to play, but he's competitive. I mentioned this the first time I visited with you guys. He walks around here thinking and acting like he's the starting quarterback. It's what we want out of him. He did start 4 games last year. And so. He's not scared of competition, and at the end of the day, competition makes everybody better.
where's he elevated? Has he elevated his game in any particular area?
Yeah, he just needs to speed things up. I mean, everything's, and watching Anthony has been good for him because Anthony does everything so fast. Like he processes fast, he moves fast, he drops fast, he goes through reads fast. I mean, everything's just really fast because he's started for 3 years, right? So I think that's been good for TJ to understand, how to accelerate things. I think that was TJ's biggest problem last year is it's not his fault. I mean, he's a true freshman, right? I mean, just things were happening really fast and he couldn't keep up with it at times, and so I think him being able to, have the example of the quickness of how you need to play this game. I mean, every game's about 5-6 seconds, right? So you better do things quick. And so he's focused on that, speeding up his feet, speeding up his release, speeding up his progressions, how he communicates in the huddle. Anthony's been really good for TJ when it comes to that.
The scramble drill piece with the wide receivers. I mean, what is kind of the next step for that group look like this season based on, a lot of the same guys being back?
Yeah, well, hope the ball's coming there. It starts with that, right? And I'm telling you, it's just been, Coach Real did this like practice 2. He showed Diego, the Vanderbilt quarterback, okay? He showed a lot of his plays, and a lot of his plays were off-schedule plays. And I'm telling you, it looked as good as I've ever seen, just as far as him, like, extending the play and receivers accelerating to open spots. That was impressive, man. And so he showed the team that, and we go out there and we start working it. And so I think it's starting to click, and it's starting to make sense on what they need to do, but more importantly, how fast they have to do it. I mean, they know who's back there, and that gives their guys hope. That's where most of your big plays happen. If a guy's running a over route and the quarterback goes that way, the importance of spinning out of that thing and accelerating the route. I mean, if you don't do it like that, you're never going to get to that spot, and you're never going to get that ball, and you're never going to make that play. And so it just starts with hope that the quarterback's going to do that. And so they see him running around back there making plays. It kind of gets those guys fired up because it's a chance of an explosive play, you know. And so just the element of the hope aspect of it is going to get those guys to the spots where they need to be. I'll get fired up about it.
How was it having Eric Crouch at practice today?
Oh, he's such a great dude, man. So unassuming. You know, he's a true Husker. He cares. You know, he just loves being around it. He was excited about it. He came up to me and was like, "I really like watching your quarterback play. He's fun to watch." You know, and so for him to say that, that got me fired up. He's like, he goes, "It's just so much fun to watch him play the game." You know, and he talked to the team for a couple of minutes and just really love having him around, man.
When you have that improviser ability with a guy like that, are you seeing like really dumb turnovers come off that too, or like?
No, I haven't seen that. I have not seen that. He's doing a really good job of taking care of the ball. You know, we put the ball on the ground one time today in about 150 plays. That's by a running back. You know, unacceptable. But he's really doing a good job of extending things and taking care of the ball. That's a big emphasis on his part. You know, just based on what's happened in the past.
How's the running back competition?
Good. Mackay looks explosive. Mosey looks more comfortable. You know, Ives is getting in there doing some things. Jamal Rule will turn people's heads. He's big, but he's athletic, runs as good as any of them. You know, Connor Booth's coming along. So we feel really good about that room, you know, and they're competing hard every day. Awesome. All right, see you guys.